Robert Plank Show, episode 267. Find a strategic virtual assistant and hire the right team with the entrepreneur's secret weapon, Tracey Osborne. Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Robert Plank Show. Our guest today is Tracey Osborne, and Tracey is known as the entrepreneur's secret weapon. And as an accomplished virtual assistant of almost a decade, Tracey specializes in all things strategic: online business management, launches, funnels, and telesummits. And by removing the stress of daily operations, Tracey allows her clients the focus and freedom to do whatever it is that they do best, thus resulting in heightened profit and growth. So Tracey, how are things today?
I'm doing great, Robert. Thanks for having me on the show.
Super fantastic. I'm excited to have you on and to hear about what you're all about and what's exciting you. And so you're a virtual assistant. You kind of simplify things and make things easier. So, there's all kinds of virtual assistants out there. So how do you personally kind of stand out from everyone else out there?
So I focus more on the strategy side of things as opposed to just the getting things done. There's two types of virtual assistants. There's the ones that just do the task work that you assign to them, and then there's the ones that actually think and strategize and see and get the big picture. And I fall into that second category, which is a lot smaller of a category than the doers.
Awesome, and more specialized, I'm really glad
Absolutely.
that you brought that up and that we're kind of talking about this, because when I hear virtual assistant, like, I tend to usually think of that kind of first category that you mentioned, where like they're the ones that they'll make some phone calls, or they'll send emails, or they'll do customer support, and like with that kind of situation, I'm thinking like, oh no, like I have to sort of like kind of do their job for them for a while, or like be super like hands-on and make sure they're doing it. So is what you do, is it sort of like a blend between a virtual assistant and a coach? Because like when you talk about the strategy, I'm thinking like it's sort of like hiring a coach to help make those decisions.
Yes, absolutely. So, basically what I'm called is an online business manager, and I'm going to come in and I am your right-hand person. So I'm the one that's making sure things are getting done. I'm actually probably managing the team instead of doing the task work myself. But because I've been doing this for 10 years, if there's an emergency, I can actually get in there and get my hands dirty and do the task work if need be. So that's another thing that kind of sets me apart from other people. But I also coach. I teach women how to use the skills that they have to grow and start a business working from home as a virtual professional. And so I bring my coach's hat to the table as well. So absolutely, I get on the phone with my clients and we strategize, we brainstorm, we create launch strategies and plans, and then I'm the one that makes them come to life. So basically what I do is, think of it as you have this big, beautiful picture, and you take it to the manufacturer. They break it up into all these little itty bitty tiny jigsaw pieces, like a 5,000 piece jigsaw puzzle. And then somebody's got to put that sucker back together, and that's what I do.
Awesome. So it sounds like you provide like a whole virtual assistant team if that's what is necessary there.
I do have a team if that is necessary. Absolutely.
Cool. And so, I mean, can you kind of walk us through maybe like a case study or a scenario where, like, sort of like what you mentioned there, where, you have a client, they say, I need these things, and you kind of strategize? I mean, what kind of goes into like your thought process, I guess, is what I'm asking.
Oh gosh. So, it really depends on what's happening and who the client is. But, I've had clients where, let's take telesummits, for example. That's one of the things that I specialize in. So I have somebody come to me and they say, I want to do a telesummit. My coach says I need to do a telesummit. And that's all they know, is that they need to do a summit. They don't have a clue what actually goes into putting together one of these suckers. They just know that they have to do one so that they can build their list. And so I sit down and, I ask them a ton of questions, how many speakers, what's the genre, what's the whole point of doing this? What do you really hope to get out of it? That kind of thing. And then I have to sit down and I have to create an actual timeline and strategy. And I've got all the pieces and parts listed out. So if they hire me in my team to do it, I've got templates in my teamwork that I just pop that in, and it already has all the tasks already outlined for me, and I can just go in and tweak them. If we're using their team and I'm just coming on as a consultant or a project manager, then, somebody's got to sit down and create all these pieces and parts and figure out who's doing what. And that's my role. So, they just know that this is the final product that they want to happen. And then it's my job to create all the rest of it. So, guide them, consult with them, and just make sure it comes to fruition.
Awesome, and that sounds pretty logical. So someone comes to you and they say, I need this in place, like a telesummit is our example, and then you say, okay, well, I've done telesummits before, or I've seen this before, so I'm just going to customize what I already know towards what their needs are, and then ask them all the questions to kind of flesh out, where they're at or what's the scope of it, and then knowing that, then you say, well, here's the timeline, or here's the order I'm going to do things, and then here are my templates, and then either you have your place within their team, or you have your own team to do that kind of stuff. And so, I mean, when you deal with these clients, and when they come to you with these problems, like, is there any room for improvement, sort of on the client's end? Like, is there anything that you wish that they always came to you with to make it sort of a smoother transaction, or is it pretty painless for you when dealing with people?
It depends on the person. Some of them come to me and they've got it down. They know exactly what they want. They know how to go for it. They know where they're going and all that. And I love those. Those are my favorite. Makes my job a little bit easier. But then there's the ones that come to me and they're just completely clueless, and they're fun to work with too, because they're eager, they're excited, and they're open to learning, and they're open to picking up new ways and figuring out new ways to do things. So, I get them from both sides of the spectrum, really. As far as, is there room for improvement? There's always room for improvement. On the client side, on my side, I'm not perfect. There's always ways that we can make things better, right? So, and that's one of the things I do. I'm always looking for ways to make things better.
Awesome, and I think that makes a lot of sense in that either they know exactly what they want, which is great because then you can flesh it out. But I like what you said there, where even if they don't quite know what they want, at least they're open to learning. At least they don't they don't want to remain clueless. So that's pretty cool right there. And so, just out of curiosity, do you ever have to maybe sometimes clean up the stuff that another VA or some other team has kind of done before?
A lot. Yeah, I get quite a bit of that. I've had people come to me who they're really gun shy because their VA just has either really screwed things up or has just disappeared, and unfortunately that happens, and it's typically often with the newer VAs that happens with. But I've had summits that come to me and they're just a complete mess, and I have to fix it and put it back together. And just the other day, I had somebody come to me. She was wanting to launch a course, and her VA was halfway through building a sales page and has gone MIA. And so now we have to jump in, figure out where she actually left off, and finish this whole project. So yeah, I get that stuff, unfortunately, too often.
And I mean, is there an easy way to avoid that? Maybe from from the hirer's point of view, is there a way to sort of prevent that, or is that just kind of goes with the territory?
It doesn't. It doesn't. I actually have a whole free mini course on how to find your ideal virtual assistant, and it kind of helps to weed out the ones that might actually end up dropping off. Nobody's perfect, and life does happen, so you never know what's going to happen. Even if you get the best VA, you never know what's going to happen with them. But my process helps to really make sure that end virtual assistant that you have is probably going to be the best fit for you. And the way to do it in a total nutshell is you've got to get very clear on what it is that you want to give to them. So you need to make sure you have, in advance, what exactly am I going to do? I get people that I see them on Facebook all the time. I need a VA, but I don't know where to start. So start with following yourself around for a couple of days, and every 20 minutes, set a timer. Every 20 minutes, write down what you've done in that 20-minute time block, and that's going to tell you where you can start delegating stuff. And it's also going to tell you where you're spending too much time on things that you probably shouldn't be, like Facebook and your inbox and those kinds of things.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, after that, you need to figure out some of the qualifications that you want in this person. It's kind of like building your client avatar. You're building your ideal virtual assistant avatar. So think about their background, their personality, their work habits and ethics. Create that ideal person. And then when you actually go out and you're looking for them, when you're writing that post that you're going to put out on Facebook or wherever, looking for your virtual assistant, you want to put as much detail in there as possible. Who are you? Who is your company? What are the skills that you're looking for? What are the qualities that you're looking for? Do they have to be location based? Is North America preferable, or can they be all over the world? Do they have to be in the Eastern time zone, or does it matter? Those kinds of things. Put as much detail in there as you can, and then be very specific on how they actually contact you. And this does a couple of things. So if you put in there, I want you to email me with a specific subject line, and people are emailing you without that subject line, and they're sending you a private message, they're not detail oriented and they're not going to be a good fit for you. So you want to get very specific and ask pointed questions, ask for certain pieces of information. And then, you just kind of start going through what's happened or what they're sending you. So again, you're looking for your specific subject line, making sure that they have sent the required information that you have asked for, looking to see if their responses are boring or canned or, full of grammar and typos, that kind of thing. And then you get on the phone with them and you're asking even more questions. You're asking them, what happens if there's an emergency? What if you get sick, or your kids get sick, or your dog gets sick? Who's going to take care of me? What's your backup plan? How do you work? How do you operate? How quick of a turnaround can I expect if I send you an email before I hear from you again? And those kinds of things. And then after that, you want to check their references. And this is really, really important. And it's a step that most people skip. And you want to ask the references the questions like, what did you feel their strengths and weaknesses are? Because you're going to get some really interesting answers from people who've actually worked with them and have seen just what they actually are like. And then you make your decision from there. So the whole process is hire slow, fire fast. If you get them on after 2, 3, 4 weeks, you can tell this is just not a good fit, cut them loose.
Awesome.
So that's my mini course in like 5 minutes.
Cool. And just to make sure, like when people follow along here, where can they get that mini course?
So they can get that course. It's Tracey-Osborne.com/partner. And that's TRACEY-OSBORNE.com/partner.
Awesome. Cool. And it sounds like as you're sort of explaining this whole process where and first of all, that's super cool. Like I've heard so many times about, have the customer avatar, but I never had thought of having that virtual assistant avatar to the extent of, what kind of emails do I want to receive? What time zone should they be in? Where should they live and what does it matter? That's super awesome. And then it sounds like as you're sort of, making them jump through that hoop of having the right subject line and make sure that they have that detail and sort of moving things along to the phone and figuring out their emergency plans and going to the references, it almost sounds like, it's pretty close to almost like the amount of research you do, like hiring a full-time person almost, it sounds like.
To an extent, because here's the deal. You're not just hiring someone to come in and do stuff. You are looking for somebody to partner with. And this is one of the things that people don't really think about, and I really emphasize and push that you've got to have a partner mindset, especially if you're hiring a specialty like an OBM, say somebody like me. We get so in-depth with your business, and we're working side by side that person, whoever it is, whatever level it is, they're your partner. They're an extension of you, and you want to make sure that you're hiring that right person.
Awesome. And so when people are hiring that person and you're figuring out like some of these details, like like what kind of things they'll do and what kind of response time, how do you do with that price issue? Like what kind of price range should someone like expect to pay for certain things for a virtual assistant, and like how do we kind of avoid that trap of paying too much or not enough?
Right. So part of it is people get kind of hung up on the pricing, and I get it. You've got to be able to budget and you've got to be able to afford it. So you can expect to pay a virtual assistant anywhere from $20 up to in the hundreds, depending on their level of experience, the kind of work that they're going to do for you, and if they specialize. So somebody coming into the industry who's going to do general admin things like checking your email, scheduling calls for you, things like that, they're going to be on the lower end of the spectrum, of course. As they get more specialized and more technical, they're working on your website, they're putting your funnels together, all that kind of stuff. Then you're looking at more of probably the $35 to about $55, $60 an hour range. And then as we get into the specialties, of course, that's going to go up into the higher rates. Now, what happens is people get scared. They see those price numbers and they get scared. And I always encourage you to look in the long run, not the short run. So, and then also, you really want to hire people based on the skills that you need. So don't hire that $45 an hour VA to do the $20 an hour work. Hire somebody for that, and then hire that $45 an hour VA to do what they do best. Don't hire the $20 an hour VA to do the $45 an hour VA work. And that's what happens with people. And what happens there is, okay, well, I'm going to save money because I'm going to hire this brand new person who is new to the industry. They're hungry. They want to work. They're going to only charge me $20 an hour. They're going to take twice as long or longer. They're going to make more mistakes. And you're going to have to spend a lot of time hand-holding them and reviewing everything they do. What a new VA can do in 2 or 3 hours, I can pretty much guarantee you I can probably whip out in at least half that time. So I'm going to save you money in the long run. I may cost more in the short run, but I'm going to save you more in the long run. I'm also going to make you money because we can do a heck of a lot more stuff.
Awesome. That's a really good way of looking at that hire that right person for that right job. And it seems to make common sense as you're kind of explaining that, in hindsight. But I can imagine that a lot of people get stuck in that trap of saying, ooh, well, I hired this really cheap person. They don't know much. They must be, like young and hungry and getting started. But then if they don't know what they're doing, or, maybe you save money by on that hourly rate, but then they took, 10 times as long to do this thing for half price. Well, now you've paid, like 5 times the price. And so,
and how much time did you have to spend guiding them and instructing them, that kind of thing too.
And fixing their mistakes if they messed up or didn't complete. Yeah. And then so sort of on that issue of the price, like you mentioned all these things in like hourly rates. I mean, how is that sort of thing usually like sort of negotiated? Is it just like however long it takes hour by hour, or should someone expect like a VA to say, well, this job will take 20 hours and it's a flat rate, or I'll bill it after? Like, how does that hourly thing kind of work out there?
Well, so that varies based on the virtual assistant. It varies based on what it is that you're actually needing. So we'll go back to the telesummit example. For me, a telesummit is that's a product. That's a package price. I will give you one flat rate, and it encompasses XYZ. Now, regular ongoing VA support, my weekly newsletter, my blogging, my social media, my website updates, those kinds of things are typically broken down into more of an hourly rate. But you can expect to pay a monthly retainer. Everybody who's coaching and teaching VAs, we always teach them you get your money up front, and we work on retainers. So, for example, maybe you come on board with a 10-hour retainer, and you pay me X dollars on the first of every month, and you get your 10 hours. Now, this is something you have to talk to and work out with the virtual assistant you work with. For me personally, I send out time reports on Fridays, so you know where your hours are at on Fridays, how many hours you've got left. So there's no surprise at the end of the month when all of a sudden we went over 20 hours and you have this huge invoice. You'll know long before that happens. And then also, anything that's unused, we had a slow month. Unused for me rolls over for 30 days. So that's something to definitely check with the people that you're talking to. How do they handle that? How will you know in advance before you get a bill for overages? I've actually had VAs on my team who, that was part of my contract, that anything over what I contracted with them had to be approved before they went over. And I had one VA who did 2 months in a row where she went over and sent me an invoice with, it was like double what I was expecting to pay her. And I ended up letting her go because she wasn't doing what I needed her to do. So you need to be very, very clear on that this is your expectations. I want those time reports on Fridays. I want to know well in advance before we go over time, that kind of thing.
Awesome. And that whole idea of sort of managing those expectations ahead of time and sort of, being clear about, what kind of things will happen on what date. It sounds like that's something that it keeps coming up in our discussion here. And it sounds like that, like what makes you a successful VA versus maybe some of these other horror stories is maybe that, like, you seem like you've not only have you done it before, but you're also like more organized than the average VA. It seems like just from talking to you, especially with this whole like the monthly retainer thing and the payout days and the rollover. It sounds like just that you've thought through maybe a lot of the like the a lot of the gotchas that all these other VAs maybe haven't even considered.
Well, I've learned it by trial and error. I'll admit, when in my early days, if you ask any of my early clients, they will flat out tell you I was probably the most unorganized person they'd ever met. So I've had to learn that if I was going to be a success and I was going to make it in this business, that I had better get my act together and I'd better get organized. So it was kind of a struggle for me in the very beginning, but yeah, now 10 years later, here I am, and I have to be organized, or else things aren't going to get done, and this business just won't make it.
Awesome. And so, what was the secret to sort of getting organized like that? Like, because I really like the that thing you mentioned earlier, where you kind of follow yourself around, and every 20 minutes the timer goes off. You kind of document what you did the last 20 minutes. Like, was that sort of involved, or like, how did you sort of go from like being disorganized to being organized?
For one, it was mindset, and it was just getting the right information. And what had happened for me in the beginning was, I transitioned from corporate and sales, and there was a sales guru out there that I loved his style. He was very no nonsense, in your face, tell it like it is. And one of the things that he would teach was to-do lists were for losers, and that if you had to use a to-do list, then you probably weren't doing something right. And I thought, gosh, well, I don't want to be a loser, right? So I wouldn't write stuff down. And I think in my second year of business, I'm like, this isn't working. So I guess I'm going to be a loser. I'm going to write stuff down. And I've got lists everywhere now. But my biggest thing that really helped me was project management system. I use Teamwork, and I've been using it for about 3 years now. And I absolutely love it. It lets me get really organized per client, per team member. I at one point had over 35 clients and about 19 team members. And you can't continue that kind of an organization without some kind of organization, some kind of a tool in place to keep all the pieces and parts together. So there's a lot of different project management systems out there, but that for me was probably the most key component for me to get organized.
Awesome. And so, do you have an affiliate link for that, or is it just teamwork.com?
I do. You can just go to it's Tracey-Osborne.com/teamwork.
Awesome. Cool.
Thank you.
And you're welcome. And I'm looking at that now, and that looks pretty cool. Like you can do the organize your teams and chat with them and see where things are at. Looks pretty awesome there.
Yeah.
So cool. And so I don't want to keep you too long, but as we're kind of starting to wind down our conversation, we talked a lot about you do some of these tasks, you have this package for a telesummit, and then you mentioned a little bit that you have like a weekly newsletter package, or you do blogging or social media. I mean, what other kinds of like cool things do you do for, what other sort of VA tasks do you do for these business owners?
So we do a lot more the technical and the strategical side at this point in the game. Not to mention, not to say that I don't have people that I do their newsletter for, that I've been with for a long time. But some of the other things I do is I manage podcasts. I'm a podcast expert as far as bringing on great speakers, managing those speakers, and all that kind of thing. So that's one of the things we do quite a bit of. Again, the newsletters are very popular because that's what everybody needs to do. We put together a lot of funnels, a lot of launches, webinars. My clients can come to me and say, hey, I want to do a webinar, and this is the name of it, and this is the date of it. And that's pretty much all they need to tell me, and I do everything else. Or I tell them what I need from them. And so, we do a lot of the higher level strategic stuff.
Awesome. And then, cool. And this is really opening my eyes because, like, as I said, when we first started this call, like, I had it set in my head that, virtual assistant is some kind of, like $10 person that, does some tweets or does some articles. And this is really cool that there's this whole other world, this whole other next level of a VA or a VA team where you'll do these newsletters, the funnels, the webinars, the getting speakers on a podcast. So it sounds like this virtual assistant thing has really evolved from the stereotypical kind of, outsource the stuff overseas to some teenager in their basement. So this is all pretty cool, and I want to make sure that people know all about you and know where to find you. So can you tell people about your websites and what kind of things people will find there?
So again, my website, Tracey-Osborne.com, Tracey-Osborne. I've got a lot of good stuff. I've got a ton of articles. But I've got some tools on there about if you want to learn, if you're listening, you want to learn how to become a virtual assistant, or you are a virtual assistant and you're ready to scale up that business, then definitely we need to talk. I've got some courses or I've got coaching as well for that. Or if you're just a virtual professional in coaching, whatever industry you want, and you're ready to scale that business, I'm definitely open to discussion and talking with you and seeing how we can help. But and then, I've got my different programs on there that I offer, my different services. So, yeah, a lot of good information there, and it's growing.
Cool. And I'm looking at it right now at Tracey-Osborne.com. And that's really cool that you have training here, not just for people looking to hire a VA, but also on the other end of that spectrum, people who want to become a VA or want to kind of take their VA business to the next level and avoid some of those other VA people who have kind of, it sounds like, have kind of gone to the wayside. All those horror stories that we talked about earlier, where maybe some VA went in there and bit off more than they can chew, or didn't have a good system, or kind of ended up being in over their head and sort of just gave up, or even like had some sort of emergency. So it sounds like this is pretty cool, where if people have sort of your plans and your systems and your templates and stuff, then they can avoid a lot of those typical like VA stereotype kind of traps before they happen. And so if someone is on this page on TraceyOsborne.com, and there's the courses and stuff like that, but if they want to contact you personally, maybe for some sort of like custom thing, or like hire you as a VA or something, where should people go on this website to look into hiring you as a virtual assistant?
Yeah, so you can actually just go to talk with Tracy or talktotracy.com. Drew a blank here on what that website is. Hang on, let me pull it up. So I actually have a link. It's talktotracy.com. Sorry, I'm working with a head cold today, so my brain isn't working.
No sweat.
Go to talktotracy.com, and that will just take you right to my calendar. And you can set up a free 20-minute consultation with me.
Awesome. So that's Talk to Tracy, Tracy with an E, TalkTotracy.com, to book that 20-minute consultation to see what's going on, and then to check out everything else that Tracy has there. Once again, Tracey-Osborne.com, Tracy with an E, so TRACEY-OSBORNE.com. Cool stuff. And so, as we're about to sign off here, Tracy, is there like a universal mistake you see happening with people, looking to scale their business and hire a VA and stuff like that?
I think the universal mistake is it's lack of planning for your VA, and it's also just hiring the wrong person to do the wrong job.
Cool. Fair enough. And I like that, as you were explaining earlier, that you sort of maybe do a bunch of research, or more research than an average person does when hiring a VA, because you're hiring someone to, in a sense, partner with your business. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. So great advice there. Have that planning, and spend that extra time to hire the right person for the right job to avoid those usual kind of mistakes. And so lots of good stuff today, and everyone should go right now to Tracey-Osborne.com. And thanks for stopping by today, Tracy, to spend some of that wisdom with us.
Thanks, Robert. I've enjoyed it.
Please subscribe, rate, and review our show at robertplank.com/iTunes, and like us on Facebook at robertplankshow.com.